and it's here at the Baking Steel Studio, coming from you live in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And today we are making pizza, having a pizza hangout. I'm here to answer all your questions. I'm going to make a pizza. I've got some dough sitting around. I was in Boston this past weekend and came back, but guess what? I didn't have dough. So I SOS'd my wife yesterday and I measured out some flour and I had her make a batch. And ironically, she's never made pizza dough before. So walked her through it. She made an incredible batch of dough. So we made a 500-gram batch. She just mixed up all the ingredients. We let it sit at room temperature overnight, and we've got pizza dough. I balled it up this morning, about 3 hours ago, and it's great. It's prime time. So let's get right into making pizza. You guys can see what I'm gonna do here. There's my dough. I made 3 balls. Didn't even measure them. I cut them by hand. So I'm gonna remove these. Remove one. So a little flour on my spatula here, right? You gotta cut this out. This is amazing. So puffy. I love it. Right? Take it out of the container. Allow up my workstation. Put this dough right in the middle. Look at that. I didn't start with the round dough, so it's gonna be tricky to make this one round, but we'll do our best. We don't care too much, right? Look at those bubbles. They're amazing. So my mise en place, okay? I need crushed tomatoes. I need cheese. I need dough. I've got my oven in the my steel in the oven preheating, right? I got my pizza peel. I'm gonna dust off my peel, a little semolina flour. Set that aside. And now for my dough, because we don't work this much, you guys have been to our dough hangouts. I'm going to lightly just press it out. Look at those bubbles. Isn't that amazing? It's gorgeous. I'm going to do my best to make this round, but I almost don't even care. I'm going to make it like an oblong shape. It's gorgeous, right? Incredible bubbles. This is a 24-hour dough. That's all that is. I'm going to place this onto my peel, right? That has my semolina flour on it. Isn't that gorgeous, guys? Those bubbles. So nice. Set that aside. My tomatoes, I talked about these earlier in the class. They're called Isola. And these are from the DOP region, right? In Italy. So these are going to be just really having really nice taste to them. And I know that because I crushed them. You can see I still get some chunks. I crushed them by hand and I added a little bit of sea salt. And that's my tomato base, right? I'm going to use a little pepperoni today. And I'm going to use this Trader Joe's Mozz. It's a low moisture mozzarella. So it's hard. This is a whole milk. So I've actually already opened some up. I have a whole milk here. I have a part skim here. I'm going to combine them, right? And I use my Wonder Shredder. Let's just shred up some cheese. And if you've been following us for a while, you know we always grate our own cheese because these strands are just pure cheese. If we buy them pre-shredded, they're coated with the starch, don't have a great flavor, and they tend to brown too fast. So we always shred our own cheese. Combination. Right, there's my cheese. Boom. There's my pizza. Boom. Let's make it. Crushed cheese goes, my tomatoes go on top. Boom. Try to talk too much. I go bring my sauce to the edge, but not over the edge. Isn't that pretty? Now my cheese. Spread it out. Just 2 cheeses today, right? That nice, guys. I'm gonna give this thing a little jiggle, right? My pepperoni. Gonna drop it on, boom, boom, boom. If you like a lot of pepperoni, this is nice. Right? Not gorgeous. So now I'm gonna come back to this picture of me. All right, so I made my pizza. I've got my ball bearings, my wood on there. It's sliding. It's sliding like a puck. I want that dough to be sliding because if it doesn't, this is the time to fix it, right? This is when I want to take some flour under one of the corners. If you could see here, if this was sticking a little bit, pipe a little flour under here. That'll help it continue to move, okay? But now I've got my baking steels in my oven. I have 2 steels in my oven, heating at 500 degrees. I'm using convection for 1 hour, and it's been about an hour. So this thing's ready to go in the oven. So I'm going to take you for a little ride with me. We got a towel. You know what my towel is. Bear with me for 1 second. So I'm going to go in the oven. You guys can see exactly what it is I'm doing. You can see that on broil. I'm going to launch this thing before it even kicks on because I have clock to it. Open my oven up. Back of my peel goes to the back of my steel. Slide it off. Boom. Timer. 2 minutes. And the reason I have that broiler on, because I want that top heat now to come down onto that pizza directly for 2 minutes. I got a timer on. After 2 minutes, I'm going to open the oven up and just rotate that pizza just a little bit, maybe a 180, just to promote even browning on top. I'll turn the broiler off and go back to convection bake for the second 2 minutes. And we will have a pizza done in about 4 minutes in a baking steel in my home oven, which is mind-blowing, right? Every time I do this, I get super excited. And this time is going to be no different. This is going to be a beautiful pepperoni pizza. And are there any questions yet? And what's up, Henry from Sterling Heights, Michigan? Good to see you. Oh. Always covering your dough up afterwards. Great. What does the second steel on the bottom do? Mark, great question. That's been 1 minute, by the way. I'm gonna get to that in just 1 second. Let's go inside the oven after 1 minute. Let's see what it looks like. Right? Not a lot of color yet. So we keep it going. And we'll switch it over in just a minute. But it's gonna kick on. It's on now. It's gonna be awesome. So the second steel is if I was making multiple pizzas today, I would lower the top pizza to the bottom steel and then launch a new one on top. And I would continue that cycle from bottom to top, bottom steel, top steel to bottom steel over and over again until I ran out of doughs. The idea is the 2 steels, they hold so much temp. I can literally crank out pizza one after another. So I'm gonna peek in this again. Yeah, you can see the color now. You see, guys can see here. I want you to take a look here, what I'm looking at exactly. Now you can see I've got a little bit of color. So I'm gonna turn the broiler off. You see the color? I'm getting a little bit of char, right? I might rotate this a little bit. I'm using my hand to spin it, right? And now close her up. I'm gonna go back to convection, bake, multi-rack. 500 degrees, start. And I'll put a timer on again, so I don't forget, 2 minutes. Boom. And that will be, I don't know, like another minute. It's crazy good. Smell it. I can smell it already. So anyway, the 2 steel method is because if I'm using 2 steels, I'm cranking out pizzas. For today's class and a demo, I'm making 1 pizza. I don't need 2 steels. I only need 1. If I'm making even like 2 or 3 pizzas, 1 steel is definitely adequate. It's when we get into like having like 5 or 6, 7 pizzas on a Friday night, and we have a lot of people over, 2 steels will be very handy. You can really almost double your output, if you will, in the same amount of time. Let's see. Join late, but love how my steel soaks up the heat. Greetings from Scottsdale. Hey, what's up, Mitch? Hello from Scottsdale, one of my favorite places. And one of the best pizza places on earth is there. Bianco. We are making sourdough bread in a Dutch oven. Can we use the same bread? Can we do the same bread on the steel? Oh, hey, Chris, great question. Yes, 100%. In fact, more and more bakers are discovering that we can do open bakes. We don't need to do them in a Dutch oven. We can do them right on the steel and create our own steam. And in particular, people are loving like the baking steel plus because it's 15 by 20. So we can do like almost 4 loaves at one time. And if you're like if you have a micro bakery in your house, that's phenomenal having that. So let's take another look in 5 minutes total. Look at the color. You guys see that? Isn't that amazing? Underneath, we're getting it. It's not quite done underneath yet, but it's very close. In fact, I'm going to do is remove it just because. That awesome looking. Amazing. So let's go here. You guys can see here. Sorry about the oven here. It's got this gorgeous, guys. You see this? It's amazing. It looks so pretty. Really nice looking pie. I picked it up. Better, right? The pepperoni's curly nicely. It's checking all the boxes. It's checking all the boxes. This is 3.5 minutes. Now, I'm going to reheat this a little bit later on with my kids. So I'm going to bring it home with me. So I wanted to not cook it all the way because I'm going to put it back in my oven at home on a steel. And for about 2 more minutes, it'll finish baking there and crisp it up beautifully. But it's awesome, guys. I can't really see underneath it here. It's awesome. It's beautiful. So good. It's great. What's up, Nancy? All right, so I'm going to answer this question. Lane is asking. There's the pie. It's gorgeous. It could use some basil if you'd like, or it's just ready to serve. 3.5 minutes in a home oven on a baking steel. All right, so Lane is asking, what dough at room temp, and for how long? Okay, so this is our 72-hour dough we made. I made it yesterday. So it's only been 24 hours. So we only did the bulk fermentation outside the refrigerator. So it's been sitting in this container, our dough containers, for 24 hours. Probably not even, probably like 20 hours. I removed it and made dough balls this morning. Those have been proofing for about 3 hours at room temp, which to me is about 70 degrees Fahrenheit. And it looks spectacular. Thank you, Nancy. It's great. Yes, Ed, it's perfect. What's up, Nancy? Good to see you. Just joined in. We made a pepperoni pizza. It's great. I want to put ground beef. Should I cook it beforehand? Oh, great question, Nancy. In fact, I thought about doing that today. No. If you're going to use your ground beef, just cut it and like break it off into really small pieces and it'll be fine. It'll cook in that oven in that 5 or 6. I might not use the broiler. If I'm cooking ground beef, I'll just do a straight bake for like 5 to 7 minutes. And that'll have you plenty of time to cook the beef. Just do it in smaller pieces. Hey, Chris, what hydration percent is the dough? So the dough we made, our 72-hour dough is a 70% hydrated dough. And for those people who want to know what that means, is there's a ratio of water to flour. Your flour is your main ingredient. So everything's based off of percentages off of the flour. So we use 500 grams of flour and 350 grams of water, which equals 70%. And that is the recipe. It's a really good hydration level, I think, for a baking steel in a home oven at 500 degrees. Now you can amp that up to say, instead of using 350 grams, you could use 375 grams. And that's going to amp up that percentage a couple points. You can also amp it down. If it's too sticky, too wet, which this dough can be, reduce it. Instead of 350, try 325 grams. Again, you're just playing around with those ratios a little bit, makes it a little bit easier or a little bit more difficult to work with. But it's a really nice hydration. I hope that answers that. How to get bottom more done. Bob, really, I removed this from the oven in 3.5 minutes. It's almost there. I would just give this 1 more minute on that steel. The reason I'm not is because I'm going to reheat this one later. I don't want to waste the food and overcook it. So I cooked it to about 85%. I'll put this back on the steel for like 1 more minute later on in the afternoon, and it'll be perfectly cooked. So really, that's the reason I did that. Usually I'm about a 4-minute bake with the same style. Do I need to season the meat? Oh, great, Nancy, good question. I like to have, yeah, lightly salted, because in combination with the salt from like the cheese and the pepperoni and the sauce, you don't want to be too heavy. So maybe lightly seasoned would be a good idea. Would a larger pie require more time to cook a Detroit style? Great question. So Rick, would a larger pie require more time to cook? Yes. Depends. If it's thicker like Detroit style, we like to give those things 15 minutes on this in the oven, on the pan, on the steel, right? Because they're thicker like a lasagna. So it's going to require a slower bake, 450 for, and those ingredients need to cook through. So yes, to answer that question, making a larger round pizza, not necessarily. If I'm making it like thin crusted like this, it's not going to take too much more time to bake. I hope that answers that. How many dough balls fit into your dough box? So I put 3 good size ones in here today. I have typically done 4 at a time in there, no problem. I think it maxes out about 4, which is good, depending on the size again. All right, so Chris is asking, I've been making your dough for a few months and now constantly have problems with tearing. I'm trying to understand if I am overstretching it or not mixing it, kneading it properly. Great question, Chris. My first thought that comes to mind is, what type of flour are you using? Can you answer that for me? And when you're making a long fermented dough, you need to have a high protein content flour. We use Central Milling's organic bread flour. It's high mountain, high gluten. It's 13.5% protein, which is very high. And that really can handle a longer fermentation. Bread flour, stone ground, organic. So I don't know what brand that would be, Chris. Here's what I would do. I would use that same flour and try a 24-hour ferment and see how the glutens feel. And what you're experiencing is longer fermentations break down glutens in dough, which makes it much easier to digest, right? So if it's easier to digest, the glutens do break down. And literally, if I make a pizza, it's a 5-day ferment, I rip it. Even the Central Milling, it's very, very delicate. So that's just the fermentation. So I'm guessing your flour might not be super strong. So maybe try it at, I use farm to flour. Okay, also farm to flour is a great product. I've also used it. Maybe try it for 1 or 2 days. You'll see a little bit of difference. And their flour is great. It's beautiful. So I would just stick with the 1 or 2 day ferment with that flour potentially and see what happens. I bet you'll notice a significant difference and not lacking any flavor either. Anybody else have any questions? Anybody? Small crew here today? Yeah, I love it. Let's see here. Boom, I don't see any questions. Not yet. Nobody? All right, well, look, I'm gonna wrap it up. If no one else has any questions. I'm gonna show you this pizza one more time. How come we never see you eat it? Chris, what's up? Because I'm really good at not eating too much pizza. I love pizza. I will eat this later on, but if I start now, I might not bring anything home. So I'm pretty good at like having one slice and keeping that really separate. I try not to eat too much. Okay, so you're saying if the crust is coming out chewy rather than crispy, what is wrong? If it's coming out chewy rather than crispy, I mean, I guess one question is, how long is your bake? What's your bake time, Chris? 8 minutes. Are you using the broiler at all? And when you're baking it, maybe it's cooking a little bit too long. Maybe we want to try to speed up that process a little bit at the very end. So I like to reverse it, Chris. So what I do with my bakes, I start with the broiler. You can see, in fact, this one I started a little bit late, but typically I'll preheat my steel for 1 hour. I'll switch it to broil, and then I'll I'll launch it with the broiler on for about 1 to 2 minutes. Then I'll turn the broiler off. That really gives it a nice head start. And by reversing that, you might see some speed times. And also just be very mindful of how much sauce you're applying in your ingredients. Less is more. I've heard some pro pizza makers use an extra ingredient to make it crispy. I don't remember the name of the ingredient, but do you know of this? Ugh. I don't know. I mean, are you thinking like a malt or something? Maybe that's what I was thinking too. Yeah. I don't know if that makes it extra crispy. It just might give that dough a little bit of flavor. But again, if you preheat your steel, you go light on your toppings, use that broiler for the first 1 or 2 minutes, you'll see a significant increase in the bake time, like how fast that'll bake. And the faster the bake, you know, more moisture staying inside that dough. We'll get that really nice crisp sear on the outside of that crust, right? And then it's really keeping that moisture inside, so it's soft and fluffy and airy on the inside. Hope that answers that. Anybody else? Amazing. You guys, we're gonna post this up. I'll take some pictures of it and share it. Ooh, good question, Henry. If you add malt, you know what? I don't know. My guess would be about 20 grams. I'd start there. We'll have to explore that one. I think it's been a while since I used malt in my dough, but especially for like a 24-hour dough, maybe, geez, 20 grams might be a good starting point. I always start little, 1% bakers, yeah. Can cook the dough by itself so my kids can put the toppings on. Oh, that's a great question. Can I cook the dough? Yeah, you could. You can pre-bake your dough. Some people do that. Cook it for, you know, instead of 4 minutes, cook it for like 3 minutes. Get it set so it's firm, and then remove it. And you can add the kids add the toppings for sure. Bob's question about the bubbles in the dough. All right, let's see here. Bob, let me see what Bob said. Sorry, I missed Bob's question. Oh, Bob, am I overworking the dough if I'm not getting the bubbles in it? Oh, good question. Am I over? Yeah, you know, potentially, yes. Because we really need this dough so lightly in that, my wife did it beautifully. She made this dough for the first time. She kneaded it for like 2 minutes. And all we're trying to do is get the clumps out. And then we're not folding our dough. We're not taking those extra steps that a lot of pizza makers do because they don't want their dough to bubble up so much. I tend to like the bubbly, free-form dough and puffiness that this dough creates. That's why we're really stuck with it. So make sure you're measuring your ingredients, Bob, by weight using a scale. And, you know, again, the yeast is important not to use too much yeast. We use a micro amount of yeast. So really dial in those ingredients. And then when you're kneading it, just be mindful that I'm not going to overdo it. But you really can't overdo it by hand. Again, I'm just trying to knock out those dry clumps. Hope that helps there. Would love to see you do a za on the grill. Mitch, that's a great question. I do have a new grill area. I will do that. Good call. I'll do a video on that. And we do have some videos in the archives too, but we'll pull that back out. Probably do a live class on it. It's a good idea. Anybody else? Here we go. Nancy's asking if we tried beer in the dough. Yes, we have. In fact, we should do one of those classes again soon too. Literally, if you're doing beer in the dough, it's just a substitute, 1 for 1. So instead of water, find your favorite beer, substitute that in. Don't make any other modifications. It's great. It really leaves a nice flavor. I hope that helps. Anybody else? Amazing, you guys. Thank you for being here today. We'll see you in a week or two. We've got some good guests lined up as well. I think we're doing an Instagram live tomorrow. If you missed our cheese, Joe Gatto is coming back tomorrow. We're going to do a live on Instagram on making fresh mozzarella. Be a nice addition to this pizza. Be really fun. You guys are amazing. Thank you, guys. Any questions, send me an email, Andres@BakingSteel, and we will see you guys very soon.